never forget that those habits that you've instilled in yourself are so powerful, but the greatest point and lesson here is that you created them. So if you created those habits, you can also break them down and create new ones. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. And I say that because I believe it every single day of my life. And I'm here to tell you that your greatest superpower in your journey to happiness is awareness. That's it. That is the secret. That is the age-old secret that we've all been looking for eons, for decades, for all those ancient religions and thought masters were all talking about all along. And that is simply awareness. Can you believe it? So today we're going to talk about what on earth am I talking about when it comes to day-to-day heading to work, trying to be happy in the job that you have, in the business you've created, in the world you live in, when every day it seems like happiness eludes you, when there seems like so much outside of you that it's difficult to combat that with the simple idea of awareness. What on earth do I mean? Today we're going to talk about exactly that and why it is the superpower the mystics have been talking about all along. You know, it's incredible how much of our lives, how much of our day and our entire lifetime is lived unaware, literally blind and deaf to reality. And you might say to me, look, I am so aware I know what's happening in the world. I am constantly reading the news. I'm constantly paying attention to what's happening in society. I believe you, but are you aware of your own conversations inside your own head? And are you aware of habit patterns, thought patterns, habitual thought patterns that are preventing you from finding happiness? And maybe your whole life you've been blaming someone else or something else and been completely unaware of the power you have within yourself. Human beings are so incredible. You know, I was thinking about that this weekend. We have these enormous frontal cortexes, these four brains of ours that are so powerful to create reality out of nothingness. I mean, we create inventions, we create revolutions, we create entire stories and novels and universities out of our own forebrain, out of this prefrontal cortex, and something that animals just can't do. But what we can also do is create enormous stress and unhappiness. We can do both. In fact, our thoughts can make us so anxious and overwhelmed and give us a confused and distorted sense of reality. So I'm going to give you an example in every day. Just by having someone at work who you have a negative association with, just by their presence, you can put yourself in a place of stress and anxiety before they even utter a word, before anything has gone wrong. Picture this scenario, driving to work, and you start thinking about all the things that this person might say to you during the day, or maybe you're remembering last week when she really said something nasty to you or inappropriate, and now you start thinking, man, I should have responded with this comeback, or if I had said this, maybe she would have thought about it differently. And, you know, she probably has this attitude. And on your way to work, you're priming your body for a fight, even before you get there. And you're telling yourself these stories of inevitability about a negative situation that's going to happen at work. Even more than putting it out into the universe and setting yourself up for an argument or even just an uncomfortable feeling, an uncomfortable day. What you're doing is you're beginning to stimulate emotions within yourself, and emotions are created and maintained by hormones. So you're using this incredible brain of yours to prepare yourself for an argument or an uncomfortable situation before you even get there. And by the time you get to work, you've already washed your body with cortisol, you've already washed your body with adrenaline, and you've already presupposed what might happen before you even gave it a chance. Sometimes we do that even with our practices. I know in dentistry, if there's been a situation that maybe there was an unhappy customer, an unhappy patient, an unhappy parent, and that one little incident, that one negative person can ruin your day. That one little incident becomes the one thing that we start perseverating over. And even before we get to work on a completely new day, we're anticipating the inevitability of another episode like that one. Before we even get there, we've relived this torturous experience, and we're starting our day from a set point of anger and frustration and overwhelm and anxiety. Sound familiar? So today I'm going to give you a tip and a tool for reassessing that and using awareness as the superpower to help you combat your own worst enemy, which sometimes is you. So here's the way that you can do it. Here's the practice. What I'd love for you to do is, for a moment, close your eyes, because what closing your eyes does is it centers you in the moment. And if you're driving, obviously, please don't close your eyes. But if you have the ability to just close your eyes and take a deep breath, and imagine for a moment the way you get to work. Walk yourself through the scenario. See yourself how you approach the workday, how you approach going into the office, going into work. If you're working from home, how you set yourself up. What is it that you do on your way to work? And be very analytical about it. Now, we're talking about awareness. So be very analytical. What are you actually doing? Opening the door, getting in the car. Are you eating something? Do you drink a coffee on the way to work or a smoothie? Or what have you done before that even started? Maybe even go back an hour or two and see, did you get up and work out? Or what is your usual typical routine? Not the one that you dream of or you should be doing. What is your typical routine? And what is your awareness about it? Are you listening to the news and diving deep into the atrocities of the world and again reminding yourself of how evil people are? Notice what I'm doing. I'm letting you know that you're priming yourself before you even get in the door. You're priming yourself for anger, resentment, defense, blame, and judgment. So go back again, close your eyes. What do you actually do? Walk yourself through. And if there is a toxic person at work, or a toxic action, or a toxic anticipated event, how are you thinking about it on your way to work? Are you rehearsing it? Are you planning what you're going to say to that person? Is that your typical drive to work? Or is there something triggering you on the way to work? Is there something that reminds you of a negative incident and you pay attention to it every time you pass it? Just simply the awareness. What we're looking for are those triggers that elicit a story inside our heads that gets us going on this negative train that prevents us from even having an option of starting out the day with a happy attitude, with a potential for fulfillment in the day. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. So if you've already identified something, then here's step 2. Step 2 is narrating the day as a third person. So step out of yourself for a moment and let's narrate the day. So she gets up, she goes to the coffee machine. She turns on the coffee machine. She gets out her cell phone. She starts scrolling through Facebook. And as she's looking through Facebook, she starts seeing how other people had happier weekends than she did. And she starts to feel negatively about her own life. And she starts to feel like this summer hasn't really been a rewarding one because I haven't taken full advantage of it. And then she starts to flip through her emails. And then she starts to realize all the tasks she has to take on this weekend because overnight, all the emails came in. And then she realizes she's behind on a few responses, and all of a sudden anxiety is setting in. See how stepping outside of yourself and narrating it in a third person gives you an awareness of what's actually going on. You can see from a third person standpoint that you're beginning to prime yourself with anxiety and overwhelm. If anxiety and overwhelm, if those words are ringing a bell to you, then maybe you can identify where that's happening in your morning before you even get to work. Are you priming yourself by looking and scrolling through your phone? And maybe you've told yourself a story in the past that it's effective or efficient to just bang out a couple of emails while you're drinking your coffee. Or maybe you've told yourself that you're being more socially aware and prepared for conversations with interactions if you're listening to the news. But is it creating a sense of anxiety in you, or is it creating a sense of empowerment? And I don't know the answer to this. Perhaps it is creating a sense of empowerment. Only the person that you are can know the truth. Because here's the interesting thing about awareness. Awareness is unique to you. Awareness is separate from judgment, separate from my judgment, separate from anybody else's judgment. You can only hear support and advice and ideas and suggestions from other people, but you have to be aware of how it lands with you. And then you get to make the decision. If everything I say in this podcast is nonsense to you, then let it go, because the most important thing is the awareness of how it's affecting and impacting you. So putting yourself in that third person really does that trick. Allows you to just see yourself differently and to observe for a moment how it's making you feel. You know, during my podcasts, I always say two things. Number one, I always say today is going to be a great day. And that's because I always want to put that intention out there and establish for myself how I want to feel. I put myself in that place of empowerment from the very beginning. I wake up every morning with that intention that every day is a great day. But number two, I always say, when you feel good, you can do good. Now, stepping back into that awareness and observation of your actions and your habit patterns on the way to work on the start of your workday allows you to see it a little bit differently. How is this action that's just become a part of your everyday routine, you can do it with your eyes shut, how is this impacting you in terms of how you feel? Because our feelings are enormous indicators of the hormonal rush that's going through our body, and that hormonal rush and the feelings that we have affect our thought pattern. And our thought pattern also affects our feelings. So it's this interesting cycle that could just get spun off out of awareness, without awareness, unconsciously. You could be spinning off this negative thought pattern in the morning just by your routine. So once again, step outside of yourself and just see how you're starting your day. Now, there's a third step here that is a very powerful one, but I'll let you know that the biggest, most important action here really is the awareness, because once you have the awareness, you're able to make a change. Never forget that those habits that you've instilled in yourself are so powerful, but the greatest point and lesson here is that you created them. So if you created those habits, you can also break them down and create new ones. And that's where step 3 comes in. Step 3 says, retell the story in the third person the way you want it to feel. So now put yourself in the story in a different way. She wakes up, she goes and gets herself a cup of coffee, and she reaffirms the things she is grateful for. And while she's drinking her coffee, she thanks the universe or God or love or her family or her ancestors or whoever or herself for all the beauty around her and the opportunity in her life. And she looks at herself in the mirror and she reminds herself how much love she has for herself. You can tell yourself a whole new story, but remember the important part of it is what you feel. So perhaps the actions are similar, but the feelings are different. Telling yourself that story is how you give yourself a new habit. So maybe the drive to work has always given you anxiety, and maybe taking a different route isn't possible, although how powerful would that be? I've done that, by the way, in my own life. I've changed the route I drive to work because the highway stressed me out. So I literally leave 10 minutes earlier because I get so much more enjoyment out of taking the back roads. It's a powerful way to start my day. And the reason why I did that is because I did this practice. I walked myself through in the third person, and I felt for myself the anxiety that the traffic was causing me on the highway. And then I decided the most powerful way to change it would be to reroute. And now I told myself a whole new story. And because I told myself a story ahead of time, she enjoys seeing the beautiful countryside. She enjoys driving past the cows. It reminds her of the beauty of life and the opportunity all around her. I've given myself that story before I even take the action. And now I start instilling a new habit pattern. And man, is it powerful. The key, however, is the awareness. Imagine now for a moment being in control of how you want to feel every day at work. Imagine the freedom of being true to your true, authentic self without the excess and the unawareness of the pain and the negativity that you're feeding yourself with your own negative habit patterns. And remember that the spectacular key that people have been looking for eons is right here and available to you, and it's called simply awareness. And living your life out of a place of awareness is so much more powerful. You can be so much more intentional than doing it from a blind, unaware state where you're just kind of going through the motions and not even paying attention to how it's affecting you and your emotions. That's how you start your day. You start your day with intention. You start your day with awareness of how you are feeling. Because remember, my friends, when you feel good is when you can do good. Have a spectacular day. Bye-bye.